Hi, my name is Jason Bunn-Parsons, and I'm once again here with my mentor, Sue Golubach, in part 5 of this 6-part series talking about the systemic issues um, pertaining to the educational um, system for autistics. And so, excuse me. And so, anyways, it's so basically, what we're going to be discussing here it is basically one of what the one core issue that I see that's that's like a cancer that affects everything else, and that is the mindset that entry level employees are disposable employees. Okay, and this is in every vocation that I've ever worked in, and this isn't an attitude of the immediate supervisors. The immediate supervisors, it's a headache for them to be losing employees, and for whatever reason, and have to get new employees, and so this attitude isn't generally present at the at the immediate supervisor level. This has a tendency to um to be present at the um, at the top tier decision makers. Okay, and so and so just a second here. Let me put this up here. All right, and so basically, these decisions are depending on how the company is set up is could be made by multiple different people. Okay, and so starting off job title, job description, job duties, required training, whether or not you entrust your employees in the absence of the immediate supervisors. Um, my thing isn't scrolling down. It's supposed to dadgummit. Okay. Okay. I don't know how to correct this, but in order so you can see the last two, sorry, I'm new to this particular interface, and so somebody will have to train me on how to better manage this. But anyways, so it's so yeah. So as far as when we were talking about the education system, well, okay, so um, shoot. Okay, so okay, did that work? Yay, that worked. Okay. So recruitment efforts and then pay rate. Okay. And um so when you're talking about, particularly the education system, okay, so yeah, so pay rates, I left that at the bottom because quite frankly, it's the issue that everybody talks about. I don't think Sue and I can add any more to the conversation that hasn't already been added 10,000 times before. And so let's talk about other issues, and plus that's also where it gets really divisive. And so so yes, it is true that these problems do start at the level of the US Congress and president, and then down to the state legislatures and governors. And as far as you know you know um you know money spent on education. Nevertheless, let's talk about the issues that can be resolved without asking for any more money. Okay, so there's absolutely no excuse for anybody to just reject these ideas straight out of hand. And so basically, lumping the first four together, really, as far as really focusing on 3 and 4, job duties and required training. Okay, so let me give you an example. Okay, because of the mentorship that I've received from Sue. Okay, I can be on the playground and I can notice that, okay, there's something atypical about how that child is running. Okay, actually, I can think of one particular second grader, which everybody has noticed that there's something different about how he's running. Okay, so what do you make of it? Okay, no, have I seen this before? Yes, I have. From where? Toddlers who are just learning how to walk. Okay, why do the toddlers do this? Because they're still trying to get their balance. Okay. And so what can be deduced? The possibility. Note I said possibility. I'm not saying that I know for an absolute fact, because I'm not qualified to state that this is an absolute fact, but I have enough common sense to put two and two together to think that, okay, there's a possibility that this child has balance issues. Okay, then discuss it with my fellow IAs. Are you seeing the same thing? What do you think about it? Okay, and if we're in agreement, then we go and we talk to whoever would what would work on this issue, which in this example would probably be the physical therapists or occupational therapists, but probably preferably physical therapists, right, Sue?
Ideally, if the school has one.
Yes. Okay. And so just make these observations so that way that therapist can say, okay, well, let's see if we can test your theory out and verify or disprove. And if it verifies, then okay, how are we going to work on this? And it may be that compared to other things that the child needs to work on, it might unfortunately be further down the list. It's going to vary from child to child, based on the judgment of that therapist, which that therapist is qualified to make those decisions. So bottom line is, why not give us the training in the go ahead to make these observations? That's the whole thing, is that pretty much every IA could be taught a lot of this stuff to be making these observations that would be very beneficial. But the thing is, this idea that unless you have a master's degree, you don't have any common sense. You need a master's degree to have common sense. No, you don't. Especially if you've ever been a parent and you've seen this, or you worked in early childhood, nursery, care. It's like, yeah, we've seen this a million times before. Okay, and so that so I know that a lot of times when I was making these observations and bouncing them off my fellow IAs, you know, it was like a lot of them were taking offense to it because they thought that I was trying to either outsmart them or just throwing out nonsense. Because sometimes some of the observations that I would be making is trying to figure out why they're having adverse reactions to unseeable adjutants, and that can be really, really difficult, and so could you tag in here, because my brain's starting to get a little bit scrambled. You understand the direction that I'm going, with
I
this?
definitely do.
Yeah.
Because you are the guys that have the greatest opportunity to make these kinds of observations. And as a therapist, I am well aware that, as well as an autistic, that the issue can be balance, but it also could be low muscle tone and hyper flexible joints, i.e., they don't have the stability.
Mm,
They can hyperextend their joints, which is a medical issue that should deserve attention because um, it can signify a particular a disorder that is also associated with other disorders like mast cell activation system, etc., that should require medical attention. So, yes, bringing those observations to the appropriate professional is very appropriate.
yeah. And so then and as far as analyzing, again, problem behavior, in which the children are acting out for no apparent reason whatsoever. And one of the things that I've described it as is playing battleship. Okay, so for those who are may not be familiar with the game, you have a 10 by 10 grid, and your opponent puts his 5 ships that cover a total of 17 spots on his grid, while put him on your grid, and then you take turns trying to find each other's A1, miss. B2, miss. C3, miss. Hit. Oh, hit. Okay, then you try to figure out, from there how to, sink that ship, and that's the thing is when we're talking about individuals with, who lack nonverbal, the ability to self-express, and explain why they're upset. This is something that, that the IAs need to work together in order to figure out, and so that's one of the things, so that the IAs need to be taught is how to play battleship. What are these issues, that could be manifesting themselves, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of collaboration, to connect all the dots together. You know, um, because of the mentorship I've received from Sue, yeah, I can go into an environment, and usually in less than 5 seconds, I can yeah, give a list of possible environmental adjutants before any child has actually started manifesting any behaviors. Now that doesn't mean that I'm going to pick up on every single one, because I don't have hypersensitivity to smell or hearing like many of our members have. But as far as just understanding what is in the environment that could agitate, as soon as you walk into that environment, or if you're going to go into that environment. Okay, how do you prepare that child, for those possible adjutants? And so again, uh, right now I'm just randomly throwing out a lot of stuff, but what I'm making is the point that there are a lot of things that the question is, do you trust, your IAs? Do you trust their intelligence enough, to make these observations, that they can be taught to make these observations? And this idea that we're all a bunch of disposable employees. Oh, you don't have a master's degree, therefore you can't, deduce the obvious. That's absolutely ridiculous. Of course we can deduce the obvious. We may not be qualified to fully analyze and come up with solutions, but we can, then report it to the ones who are qualified. And so, um, it's so then how are we going to get this training without increasing taxpayers' funding? Okay, well, there's several ways. One of them is the way that I got hired on, as I originally started off with a staffing agency, which assigned me to the school. Prior to, excuse me being officially hired on by that staffing agency, I was required to take a paraprofessional course. It was really brief, watched 3 videos and took a test on at the end, and so I was completely unpaid, and so it's like, okay, let's make it a policy that no IAs are hired directly on through the district, that all IAs have to be hired through a staffing agency, and the staffing agency would therefore provide the training. Okay, therefore no taxpayers' money has to go into this additional training. You just put it on the that the staffing agency. And some of these staffing agencies also offer other services such as respite care and blah blah blah. And so they're already doing more extensive training. Under DDD, DDD requires far more extensive training, for the people that care for those clients than the Arizona Department of Education requires for their IAs. And so for those staffing agencies, you just simply need to tell them, okay, you need to make sure that this is included in the training of the employees that you send over to us. Okay, and then another way for additional training is that there's a number of IAs who are in the process of going to school to become full-fledged teachers. Okay, and so allow them. Okay, well, first of all, um, on Wednesdays, okay, that the district level employees, um, I'll continue to work till 3:30, even though the students are sent home at 1:30. And so for the next 2 hours, so basically, I'll be honest, we're just, for the most part, loafing around trying to invent excuses to justify staying on the clock. So instead of doing that, how about having us all come together and then having, one of these IAs who is going to school, go and present information that they had just learned, something, that they found most profound that they had just learned in their class, and let them present that to the district IAs, as well as any of the contracted IAs who might want to stay. They wouldn't get paid for it, obviously, but they would just want to stay anyways and record these so that way everybody can see them. And so in that way, yeah, yeah, you're providing free training that's already been certified, basically, but by the instructors of these IAs. So the district doesn't have to go through and read everybody's outline to make sure it's on the level, as long as it's coming from what they've just been taught in pursuit of their teaching degree. It better be on the level. Okay. And so it allows for for um the training without adding any additional burden onto the administrators, onto the taxpayers. There's no additional burden. You're just giving those IAs the opportunity to have the rest of the district IAs do something useful with that 2 hour periods between the time that we send the kids home on during early release on Wednesdays and time that we go home. It's so yeah, there are ways to do this training without without um without increasing taxpayers money or increasing the burden upon the administrators. Okay. And so then the next issue comes down whether or not you entrust employees to take charge in the absence of their immediate supervisors. And so, so it's made very clear that, okay, that's, the IEs are not allowed to tell each other what to do. Okay. Under no circumstances. So basically, unless maybe they're committing a criminal act against a child, but if an IA, out on the playground, or that there's a lot of times during the day in which the lead teacher is not present, that and the kids are under the exclusive supervision of IAs. Okay. An IA decides that they're just simply going to ignore, the training, ignore the examples set by the teacher. None of the IAs have any authority to correct them, because you know basically I'll let them fully rationalize how they think this is beneficial, but a lot of it may be the fact that they know that the IAs haven't actually been relevantly trained, and so they can't trust any of the IAs to take charge of the other IAs, because none of them have relevant training that would allow one to actually exercise authority over another in the absence of the lead teacher. Okay. And this is a system that makes no sense, whatsoever. Anybody with any kind of organizational leadership structure training is going to tell you that's just crazy. Sue, would you like to comment on this?
I agree with everything that you're saying in terms of with appropriate training, um, IAs are the eyes and
Hmm.
of and can bring information back to
Hmm.
the professionals, to enable them to do their job better in terms
Yeah.
of better understanding through the observations that they make, understanding these children, and especially in the unstructured environments where you're really going to see what is meaningful to that child.
Hmm.
When you put them in a structured environment, every child is expected to behave exactly the same, which
Hmm.
I don't know with either. But in those unstructured environments, you're going to see the actual child and how they feel and how they respond to the environment around them. It brings a wealth of information that I think IAs can bring back
Right.
to the educators. Um, and that's where there needs to be some kind of a team meeting at some point, and maybe part of those early release Wednesdays, the IAs, rather than meeting just with themselves, can have a team meeting within their own classroom to troubleshoot, problem solve
Mhm.
specific issues.
Right. And that's okay, yeah, that's the other thing that I meant also to bring up, during training. I should have done an outline of this too, but every one of the children in the program have an IEP, individual education plan, okay? And my previous work at United Cerebral Palsy, I had access to the ISPs, which are basically the adult version, individual service plans. Okay, and so I know what kind of information is contained in those plans and how beneficial it was for me, to have access to that and being able to prepare to work with a new client, or if I'm having challenges with that client, to go back into read over, because yeah, like I said, I do have reading deficits, so it is challenging for me to read. So I'll need to go through that file a dozen times before I gleaned all the information. Each time I'll glean something a little bit more, something a little bit different, and so, one of the things that I've advocated is that, us IAs need to have access to the ISPs. If you want a universal strategy for all the IAs, to utilize, well, that's the purpose of the IEP, is to create a universal strategy for everybody to use. And but the staff that in some cases might spend the children might spend half the time with, depending on their support needs. Some of those kids spend half their time without the lead teacher present. Maybe not that much, but it seems like that to me, that some of the children with the highest support needs, spend half their time away from the lead teacher, and so the IAs absolutely should know what the program is, and it can be redacted for information that's not relevant. We don't need to know their home address or their family doctor. Yeah, that can all be redacted out, obviously, but the stuff that is relevant, talking about, okay, here's the reasons for these behaviors and how to respond to it, and then also, okay, here's the likes, of this individual, and so allow enabling you to to do a more strength based thing, and so all this information is available, to the IAs. All this, what amounts to training, individualized training for each individual student, is right there, and the IAs do not have access to it because we're because we're not high enough on the pay scale. No, we have to be teachers to look at it, and I think that that's completely bogus. That the IAs need to have access. Everybody who is going to be part of the team needs to have access if we're going to have a universal strategy on working with the kids. So, so you want to say anything
I
further?
totally
Yeah.
agree with the fact that um, when you interact, the IEP talks about the individual strengths as well as their limitations. You need to be able to understand that child equally as well as the educator does.
Hmm.
And if you're going to be interacting with them, if you're standing at a distance and doing nothing, well, but you're not. You're there and you need to be able to better understand that child. And what better device than to have access to that information on the IEP? Um, but then that's where the IAs are the eyes and ears for the teacher, and you need to be able to have opportunities to sit down and troubleshoot
Hmm.
with the professionals and bring your observations to them and learn from what they're telling you, the
Yeah.
strategies that they are using and plan to use, so that
Yeah.
there's consistency. Autistics need consistency.
Yeah, and if we're going to be the eyes and ears, of the teachers, well, we need to know what to be looking for and what to be
Mhm.
listening to, in order to know that we can, serve that purpose. And so then the last one is recruitment efforts, okay? And that this boils down to the fact that we are always short-staffed, okay? Constantly short-staffed. And so, the standard recruitment effort of just, putting the ads on the job search sites and just letting whoever come, you know, um, it's not adequate. It is not bringing us enough staff members, okay? And so basically last July, um, I brought up to, Alicia, who's the special ed director, and, Mr. Lodato, an idea for recruiting parents to come, but the thing is that it was an idea that just popped in my head like 2 or 3 days earlier, so I wasn't really able to really present in a way that they would be able to sell to the higher ups in the district. So I don't fault them to and in July, that's when their school was starting, in less than a month. I think school started like maybe 3.5 weeks after that meeting, and so yeah, so they kind of already had a lot of stuff on their plate as far as getting ready. And so yeah, so I don't fault them um, for not responding to a plan that wasn't really a cohesive plan. It was more like a concept that needed to be fleshed out. So by the time school started, I had fleshed it out a lot more. And so then I presented the idea, to the school board about about the recruiting of teachers and autistics, um, to become IAs. And because the public comment section, you only get 3 minutes. I obviously didn't have time to actually elaborate on anything, but just enough to throw some teasers at them, to get somebody to come and talk to me. So that did happen in early September. The superintendent sent a representative. I'm not going to say who this representative was. All I'll say is this was not the superintendent, nor was this a member of the governing board. Okay. And so I laid out for them what I refer to as the Build Back Better plan. Okay. Because the autism community, was devastated by COVID, just like everybody else. And you, Sue, know as well as I do, you used to hand out the flyers that had all of the Autism Society of Phoenix monthly meetings, and there was a dozen, adult group meetings and a dozen Lego club meetings. So 2 dozen meetings on that sheet.
Mhm.
The I didn't actually get around to checking, as of today, but the last I checked, there's only 4 meetings. 2 of them meet at Panera Bread, so that obviously is very limited in what they can do. That's all they have now, and so it's like, okay, there's an opportunity, for the schools and for the Autism Society to work together. The schools offer their facilities, for free, for the Autism Society to host their monthly meetings. Okay. And the schools can take that opportunity to therefore recruit parents, from the autism community, parents who already, have some knowledge, about autism, so they don't have to be trained from scratch like an IA with no background in autism, no personal connection to autism, as well as that there being programs, through Voc Rehab in which autistics, could be, hired on, through this program, in which Voc Rehab would literally be flipping the bill, for them being in that program. And which means that not only are we not increasing the money we're spending, we're actually getting an additional revenue source, you know um for the schools. Okay. And so I presented this to this representative, and 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 she made the comment that that she was concerned that by acknowledging that there was a problem, it could make the school look bad. Okay, and so yeah, you solve problems by pretending the problem doesn't exist. Go for it, Sue. I know you want to say something.
I know it's a matter of how you word it. It can
Mm-hmm.
also be looked at as increasing opportunities. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It can be looked at as an opportunity, not a slander that you're not doing enough,
Mm-hmm.
but that you're actually going above and beyond in trying to make things better.
Mm-hmm. And basically, that an opportunity for them to become the heroes of the autism community by making this alliance, and by doing this alliance, it provides them with a reason to do a press release, to tell the media, hey, we got this great alliance going. And that press release is what I believe would actually get the IAs in. Okay, because yeah, actually recruiting the parents from the meetings, that would take time to build up the meetings large enough in order to get them. The press release is what would get people to sign up for the IAs, because they'd be so excited that there's this cutting edge program they could be part of, that is going to create the greatest autism program ever in the history of mankind, that every single school should be implementing. And yeah, and so it just, and it really frustrated me. And so the consequences of us not recruiting enough IAs is that when it comes right down to it, we cannot afford to get rid of the very small handful of bad IAs, maybe two, no, never more than maybe two or three, out of 2 dozen, that absolutely need to be gotten rid of. Yeah, because when you're so short-handed, you get into this warm body mentality. You just need to throw in a warm body, just you know to keep things together. And and for me personally, the consequence was that some of these individuals, um, you know, had what I would refer to as alpha personalities. Okay, and especially when you add in the previous one, that's nobody's allowed to none of the IAs are allowed to take charge in the absence of their or officially tell each other what to do. It allows these IAs, you know, a lot of whom who reject, what the teacher is doing in favor of the way their parents raise them, to really seize control of things and create what is a blatantly hostile work environment for me personally, as I'm trying to do things the right way, the way that you taught me to do them, the way that Lisa Rattan, who was the early childhood director of Word of Grace Church, who taught all of the early childhood staff how to run a program according to professional standards, and how you talk to them. In the second video, when I talked about Miss Townsend, how Miss Townsend, talked to that student on the playground. Okay, that and so that's the consequence of not having enough IAs, is that you're forced to keep the bad ones. And and that causes problems for me in particular, where I really feel like I have a bullseye on the chest of every one of these alpha personalities, because you know that yeah, it's anyways, yeah, I want to be careful not to cross lines. It's going to get me fired, but this is a major problem for me. That as far as being able to do what I can, and and there have been several occasions where the friction has spilled out in front of the children, because the other IHs would not back down while I was trying to stay focused. They would not back down. Okay. And I finally had no choice but to stand up for myself and tell that IA to back off in front of the children. Okay. This is what's going on. Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah. Uh, Jason, what you're doing is trying to tap into um, uh, individuals that are out there with a ratio of 1 to 36 children are being diagnosed with autism. There's very few people that do not have someone close to them that they know that is autistic, which means tapping into those that would like to learn more
Mhm.
as becoming IAs gives them the opportunity to have greater exposure, to learn from the educator and the other professionals within the school system how to better work with that individual in which they come in contact with that has autism. Um, so, what you're proposing is tapping into um, a body of people that they're perhaps not looking into bringing into that position instead of just the warm body.
So, anyway, so in the interest of me keeping my employment, I think I'm going to just let things stand as they are because I think I've said enough to make my point that things have to change.
Mhm.
Okay, they absolutely have to change. There are certain things that are just utterly unacceptable that must change. And so I'm just going to leave it at that before I cross lines that cost me my job. So anyway, Sue, would you like to make any comments, before I close?
Actually, I have a couple of things that you didn't mention that I would like to throw out as far
Okay.
as opportunities to train IAs um, before school starts. And I know you and I have talked about this.
Oh yeah.
They always do some kind of a training, usually, and even in the 30 years that I worked in school systems, it was always a pep rally.
Hmm.
No, trying to get everyone inspired to start the new year, et cetera, et cetera. But um, I think more of that time, or at least a certain portion of that time, should be used for specific training in the areas in which they're going to be working.
Hmm.
So, if there's a special education classroom specifically for autism, the focus should be on learning more about autism. But also, I came across in my research on school districts and training the idea of what they call a monthly did you know card, i.e., tidbits of information um, can actually be very powerful learning tools.
Hmm.
Putting it in their mailboxes for something to consider, to think about over the time. Did you know, and facts about autism
Hmm.
or strategies that work especially well um, for autistics based on research and based on personal experiences from autistic individuals
Hmm.
that we would like to share with those that are educating
Hmm.
members of our community.
Yeah, and all the IAs, even if they're contracted through a staffing agency, are given a district email. And so, yeah, so these little tidbits you're talking about could be easily emailed to every
Mhm.
IA and teacher and anybody else that has interaction with our students. Yeah, that'd be easily, circulated to the entire department.
Yeah, so
Oh.
there's multiple ways, opportunities that perhaps aren't being explored that could be um, to increase the awareness level among
Mhm.
IAs
So,
to help them better uh, better equipped to
mhm.
work with autistic individuals.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sue. And so with that, I think that's a really good stopping point. Oh, and I forgot to bring up uh, uh, Alicia, the special ed director, had seen the previous videos and asked our permission in order to to be able to share the videos with others in the district. And so, absolutely, uh, and I and I know you well enough. I can actually speak on your behalf on this because I know you're always going to say yes, share anything, and I'm the same way. No, yeah, just share anything, with everybody who wants to listen. So, anyways, and so, and then there's still one last thing that I forgot to bring up. In the first video, I said I was going to give a shout out to Miss Brianna, and I forgot to do it. Okay, Miss Brianna, it is what one of the special ed teachers that was at Lowell last year. It's um, at our school this year, at Emerson this year, and she has attended nearly every one of our monthly meetings. That's support club meetings that you present information at, and then we all work together. And so, yeah, so on Wednesday when or no, on Thursday when I mentioned that the previous day that parents had come by with her son, that had been to these meetings. Okay, so Brianna is that teacher, that came nearly every month, and that parent came nearly every month, and together they were able to collaborate a strategy that really helped their son. And so yeah, I meant to give her a shout out, and so better late than never. So good job, Brianna. So, and with that, I will bid you all farewell until Monday, because tomorrow you have other commitments. And although I was planning on doing it 7 days a week, my body isn't as young as it was in my 20s. Okay. And so, so if I'm going to make it to the very end, I'm going to have to, be a little bit smarter about how long I work. So taking off Sundays will make sure I don't wear my body down, before the finish line. So we will be doing our next video, the last of the series, next Monday. So I look forward to seeing you then. Bye.